HOA Karen calls cops because I drained my own pool. Part 1. She screamed, "Stop draining our pool!" I was ankle-deep in the pool, garden hose in one hand, cold soda in the other, soaking up a lazy Sunday with zero drama. And then, that voice, shrill, piercing, weaponized entitlement. "Stop draining our pool!" The words exploded from beyond my 6-foot fence, like a demon being summoned through suburban rage. I blinked, looked around. Was she yelling at me? "It's my pool," I called back, not quite sure if she was serious or just sunburned and confused. But then I heard it. The phone beeping. The unmistakable tone of someone dialing 911. "Yes, I need to report a man destroying community property." And just like that, my relaxing afternoon became a full-blown HOA horror movie. Part 2. The pool criminal propaganda begins. The next morning, I stepped outside, half awake, coffee in hand, and nearly dropped the mug. There, right on my mailbox, was a flyer. Comic Sans, bright red text, and a blurry photo of me, holding a garden hose like some kind of aquatic villain. The headline, "Pool Vandalism in Our Midst, Emergency HOA Meeting Proposed." Underneath was a handwritten message in Sharpie, circled in angry loops. "This man is destroying our shared oasis." My face was barely visible, hidden behind a soda can, but the dramatics were all Karen. And the caption? "Pool criminal." Seriously, pool criminal. I let out a sigh and went back inside. Clearly, she was just getting started, and unfortunately for her, so was I. That afternoon, I walked down the block and noticed every single mailbox had a copy of the same flyer. She'd gone full HOA propaganda overnight, like a one-woman Cold War with clip art. Even the Johnsons, who always waved at me, crossed the street when they saw me. "Mr. Grady?" The sweet 80-year-old who used to ask about my tomatoes. He clutched his poodle tighter when I smiled. Karen's whisper campaign was spreading, and in her twisted narrative, I wasn't just draining water, I was draining trust, unity, the very spirit of suburban America. That evening, there was a knock at the door. Not Karen. Nope. Her latest minion. A guy named Brent, new to the neighborhood, fresh-faced, clipboard in hand, wearing a badge that looked like it was printed with a free Canva template. HOA Volunteer. Water Patrol. He smiled nervously. "Hey there, just doing a quick check-in. Friendly neighborhood water audit?" I crossed my arms. "You're doing a water audit?" He chuckled awkwardly. "Yeah, Karen mentioned potential chlorine runoff, erosion, flower bed destabilization." I raised an eyebrow. He flipped through his clipboard like he was looking for something, anything. "She said if water drains in the wrong place, it could, shift the ecosystem?" I paused, stared, then pointed to the backyard. "Go look for yourself, Brent." The water drains directly into a regulated runoff area, and the chlorine level? So low, it couldn't kill a weed. He hesitated, then slowly backed away. "Right, totally. Just, doing my civic duty." I watched him walk. Straight toward Karen's house, where she waited on the porch, holding a lemon bar on a napkin like a reward for a good little soldier. She was bribing volunteers now, with baked goods. I'd had enough. I grabbed my phone and called Mara, our actual HOA president. She answered with a voice that said, "I'm already tired of Karen." Before I could say anything, she sighed. "I know. She's been blowing up my inbox with emails about communal chlorine rights." I asked, "Does she even have authority to file reports?" Mara didn't even hesitate. None. She was removed from the board last year for trying to find someone for having pink flamingos. Of course she was. Mara reassured me. No action is being taken. Ignore anything that doesn't come directly from me. But Karen didn't need HOA backing to be a full-blown menace. The next day, I caught her again. In my yard. This time, on a step stool. Measuring tape in hand. Trying to prove that my pool was visible from the street. "You know this contributes to curb appeal?" she yelled over the fence. "Technically, it's part of the shared aesthetic." I blinked. "You made that clause up." "It's in the revised HOA packet," she snapped. I raised an eyebrow. "The one you wrote?" She glared at me. Didn't answer. Just scribbled in her notebook and muttered something about legal documentation. But it didn't stop there. Part 3. Fake citations, flamingo napkins, and the rise of Karen's cult. It started small. First, I noticed a plastic bag of trash in my yard. Bright pink party napkins with flamingos. Definitely not mine. Then, the mailbox. Stuffed with fake flyers for community beautification meetings. Meetings I'd never heard of. Meetings that somehow all took place. On my lawn. And then the note. A little plastic bag of pool salt left on my porch. With a handwritten message that read, "For your next selfish act." Written in glitter pen. I stood there, staring at it, dumbfounded. Every time I stepped outside, I could feel her watching. The curtains would twitch. I'd hear the click of her phone camera. It was like living next to a suburban spy with a chlorine obsession. And then came the letter. Not just any letter. A fake HOA citation. Bolded header. Fake logo. Bright red stamp. Final notice. Unauthorized water displacement violation. $500 fine. I didn't even need to read the rest. I grabbed it and walked straight over to Mara. She took one glance and burst out laughing. "This is in Comic Sans," she wheezed. "She's not even trying anymore." Within an hour, Mara sent out an official memo to the entire neighborhood titled, "Private pools are not public amenities. Please stop sending fake fines." I thought that would be it. I hoped it would be it. But this wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. This was war. The following morning, I stepped out and saw it. A sign. A massive, handmade, fairy light frame monstrosity. Erected right on the edge of her property, facing directly into mine. In red paint, it screamed, "Warning! Selfish neighbor draining community unity. Shame pool ahead." I just stared. Did she expect joggers to stop mid-run and mourn suburban harmony over my filter maintenance? It wasn't just a sign. It was an art installation. A monument to her madness. I briefly considered reporting it to the city for visual pollution. But instead, I got my speaker, put it in the garage window, and blasted whale sounds on a loop, aimed directly at her house. 2 hours later, she called the cops again. This time, sonic harassment. The officers showed up looking exhausted and confused. When I showed them her sign, one of them asked, "So, is this a prank war or a domestic dispute?" I shrugged. Honestly, at this point even I don't know. But I did know one thing. Karen wasn't going to stop. Not until I surrendered my pool rights or moved away. And neither of those was going to happen. She wanted a battle. She was about to get one. Because I wasn't just holding the line anymore. I was ready to strike back. Part 4. Sprinklers, spotlights, and the Karen surveillance scare. It started with a thud. 3 thick envelopes crammed into my mailbox, so tight the edges were crushed like someone tried to shove them in with vengeance. The first? A fake final HOA notice, accusing me of irresponsible pool management causing emotional distress to neighboring households. The second? A petition with about 20 signatures, all in the same glittery blue ink. Names like patriarchy and antagonism, clearly not real people. And the third? A handwritten letter that began with, "To the enemy of neighborhood wellness," and ended with, "Expect consequences." I didn't even get angry like I just put them on the counter and sipped my coffee like it was a Monday morning. But that afternoon, that's when it escalated. My pool pump, perfectly functional for over a year, just died. At first, I thought maybe something clogged the drainage line. But when I opened the back panel, the wires were yanked, reconnected wrong, like someone had tried to fix it, but almost fried the entire system. So I checked the footage, and there she was, Karen, at 2:41 a.m. in full night ops mode, a hoodie pulled over her platinum bob, flashlight in one hand, and a screwdriver in her mouth, like she was sneaking into a Mission Impossible poolside spin-off. She tiptoed through my yard like a stealthy little storm cloud, muttered something under her breath, and started messing with the pump. I nearly dropped my phone laughing. Then I marched the video straight over to Mara. She watched 5 seconds and almost spat her coffee out. "This is next-level insanity," she said. "You want me to send this to the board?" "Oh, absolutely," I replied. "Let's get it all on the record." Because this was no longer about a pool. This was principle. Karen had crossed every line. She'd escalated from fake fines to full-blown sabotage. So I decided it was time to retaliate. The next morning, I turned my backyard into a trap. First, motion-triggered floodlights, so bright it looked like a UFO landing if you stepped near the gate. Then, a custom sprinkler system, super sensitive, high pressure, aimed directly at the walkway. And, finally, a speaker hidden in the bushes, loaded with an audio loop from my security footage, Karen's voice, screeching, "This is community property, you'll regret this." Perfect. That night, I waited, and at exactly 2:17 a.m., boom. The motion lights flared, the sprinklers hissed to life, and the camera feed showed Karen, wearing a dark trench coat, a duffel bag slung over her shoulder, stuffed with pool chemicals. She was back. And this time, she was going to refill my pool, like some rogue chlorine missionary, trying to restore it for the neighborhood. She stepped forward, confident, self-righteous, and then, whoosh! The sprinklers nailed her, right in the face. She screamed like someone had dumped ice water on a banshee, slipped, tumbled backwards into my flower bed, and then the audio kicked in, her own voice, looped on repeat. "You'll regret this! You'll regret this!" She scrambled up, drenched and furious, completely disoriented, stumbling through the floodlights like a cat in a thunderstorm, and vanished into the night. I watched the replay over coffee the next morning, smiling. Finally, my backyard was mine again, and Karen was about to become neighborhood legend. Part 5. Karen's glitter binder and the final meltdown. By sunrise, I had already sent the video footage, Karen soaked, screaming, slipping, straight to Mara. Subject line? Karen's unauthorized chlorine crusade, Exhibit A. She called me an hour later, laughing so hard she could barely speak. "We're calling an emergency HOA meeting," she said. "Not to punish you, but to finally, officially, deal with her." Honestly, I didn't even want to go. I figured Karen wouldn't dare show up after that sprinkler ambush. But oh, how I underestimated her shame immunity. That Saturday, I arrived at the community rec center 10 minutes early. Karen? Already there. Hair still frizzy from her midnight soaking, but standing proudly, like a revolutionary general about to address her troops. In her hands, a glittery pink binder, labeled Karen's Corrected HOA Charter. I blinked, slowly. This was going to be good. The room filled with residents. Most of them didn't even bother hiding their curiosity. Some brought popcorn. One guy set up his phone on a tripod. Karen marched to the front, without being asked, and launched into a full TED Talk about visual ownership of community water features. She claimed my pool sparked emotional unity. That draining it was an act of aesthetic betrayal, and that as a people we had a duty to reclaim communal aquatic vibrancy. It was the HOA equivalent of storming the Capitol with a pool noodle. Mara let her ramble, then, finally, cut in. Karen, we've received multiple complaints about harassment, trespassing, and impersonating HOA authority. Karen opened her mouth, but Mara raised a hand. This is not a courtroom, and you, despite your glitter binder, have zero authority to enter someone's property, interfere with their equipment, or throw a fake pool party using someone else's house. Karen turned red, but she wasn't done. I did it! For the community! She snapped. If we don't defend our visual values now, what's next? Uncoordinated flower pots, misaligned wind chimes, anarchy. The room erupted, not in agreement, but in laughter. Even her cousin Cal, seated awkwardly in the back, looked like he wanted to evaporate. And then, one by one, the neighbors stood up. Mrs. Green told the room Karen left a violation note on her windshield for excessively shiny hubcaps. The Parker said she accused their toddler of unlicensed bubble blowing. Mr. Grady finally admitted she once reported his poodle for aggressive tail wagging near sensitive shrubs. It was a roast, an intervention, and an HOA takedown rolled into one. The board didn't even deliberate. They voted unanimously. Karen was banned from HOA activity, indefinitely. And, most satisfying of all, she was served with a formal trespass warning, legally barring her from my property. Forever. She stormed out of the room, binder clutched to her chest like a fallen kingdom. Someone near the back muttered, "Maybe she can drain her ego next." And the room lost it. For the first time in months, the power Karen thought she had was gone. And in its place, just peace. And I wasn't done yet, because poetic justice deserved a final touch. Part 6, the mural that broke the Karen. After the HOA meeting, the neighborhood felt different, lighter, quieter, peaceful, like someone had finally turned off the background static of suburban insanity. But I wasn't done yet. Oh no. Karen had left her mark in flyers, fake citations, and Sharpie-scribbled shame notes. So I figured it was time I left mine. Over the next few days, I finished draining the pool completely, scrubbed it spotless, repaired every tile, buffed the concrete until it gleamed under the sun. And then I painted a mural. But not just any mural. It was a masterpiece, right on the inside pool wall. A full-color cartoon of Karen, soaked, clutching a hose, mid-scream as water sprayed her in the face. Above her head, a speech bubble that read, "This is what entitlement gets you." It could only be seen from one specific angle, from Karen's second-story window. I sealed it with waterproof gloss, stood back, and admired the poetic symmetry of it all. The next morning, I caught her, peeking through binoculars from her bedroom window, her eyes locked on the mural, and she slammed the blinds so fast, I thought the glass might crack. She didn't say a word, didn't come outside, didn't post another flyer, didn't even glare at me over the fence. She just vanished. For 3 days, it was like living next to an abandoned movie set. Until I saw Greg, her long-suffering husband, loading cardboard boxes into the back of a rental truck. No wave, no eye contact, just silent, determined escape. A few hours later, a "for sale" sign appeared on their lawn. And just like that, Karen was leaving. I expected to feel triumphant, to throw a party, to blast whale noises one final time, but instead, I just felt relief, like someone had unclenched their fist from around the neighborhood's throat. She was gone. Not with a bang, but with a soggy whimper. And as I sat by the edge of my now empty pool, feet dangling, lemonade in hand, I looked up at that mural one more time and smiled. Because sometimes, justice doesn't need a courtroom or a cop, just a paintbrush, a garden hose, and a whole lot of patience. Part 7, a new neighbor, a new era, and cupcakes. It didn't take long after the "for sale" sign went up. The Karen era had officially ended, and just a few weeks later, the moving van pulled in. A young couple stepped out, beaming like they'd just escaped a horror movie and didn't even know the plot they'd avoided. They had a toddler in a sun hat, a golden retriever with a wagging tail, and the kind of friendliness that made me suspicious at first, until they brought over a box of cupcakes. "Hi, we're the Wilsons. Just wanted to say hello and check if it's okay if our dog sniffs around near your fence." My jaw nearly dropped. After months of backyard warfare and unsolicited HOA citations for existing, this simple act of respect felt like therapy. I almost hugged them. Instead, I smiled, took the cupcakes, and said, "Welcome to the quietest backyard on the block." We talked for a bit. They asked about the pool. I told them the story. In highlights, they laughed. Hard, especially at the part about the motion-triggered whale sounds. And when the husband saw the mural, he doubled over. "Man, that's art. That belongs in a museum." "I call it," I said dramatically, "the entitlement exhibit." From that day on, things changed. The neighborhood, it bloomed. People started chatting again, without fearing someone was lurking with a clipboard behind the bushes. Kids played on the sidewalks with chalk. No one got fined for lawn flamingos. Mr. Grady even put up wind chimes again. And me? I finally refilled the pool, crystal clear, perfectly balanced, mural intact. When it was ready, I did something I hadn't done since moving in. I hosted a real pool party. No flyers, no shame, just cold drinks, good neighbors, and peace. As the grill sizzled and the sun dipped below the fence line, Mara, the real HOA president, showed up with barbecue in one hand, a beach towel in the other. She raised her soda can and said, "You didn't just drain a pool, you drained the nonsense." Everyone cheered. Even the golden retriever barked in agreement. And as I sat back in my floaty, lemonade in hand, watching the stars peek out above a drama-free yard, I knew one thing for sure. This neighborhood didn't just lose a Karen, it gained a community. Part 8. The mural, the memo, and the legend. A few weeks after the party, life felt normal again. Actually normal. No flyers taped to mailboxes, no random pool inspections, no surprise HOA subpoenas disguised as lemonade chats, just birds chirping, laughter echoing from backyards, and the sweet sound of no one screaming about curb appeal. But then, something unexpected arrived in my mailbox. It wasn't a fake violation. It was an envelope from the city. Apparently, Karen had filed one last desperate appeal. She claimed my mural, the one of her getting sprayed by the motion sprinklers, was a public insult, and demanded it be taken down for reasons of, wait for it, visual aggression. I laughed so hard I nearly fell off the porch. But the city's official response? Even better. typed in bold, one perfect sentence. Homeowner is within his rights to display art on private property, especially when said art is inspired by documented events. Below it, a smiley face sticker, and a handwritten note from the city clerk. Nice mural. I framed it, hung it right next to the pool gate, so if another Karen ever rolls through this neighborhood, clipboard in hand, she'll know exactly how the last one ended, and trust me, everyone remembers. Because around here, I'm not just the guy with the pool anymore. I'm the one who stood his ground, who didn't yell, didn't throw punches, didn't even raise his voice, just twisted the valve and let karma do the rest. They call me the Pool Avenger. And sometimes, late at night, I'll catch a glint of binoculars in the distance, maybe from a curious neighbor or a passing HOA scout. But I don't flinch. I just raise my lemonade and toast to the quiet, to the mural, to the freshly sealed tiles beneath my floaty, and to the one truth that every Karen will eventually learn. If you treat someone's pool like it's yours, don't be surprised when it disappears right out from under you. Bonus: HOA survival. Tips from the Pool Avenger. Because every neighborhood has a Karen, you just need to be ready when she shows up. Tip number 1, always know your property lines. Don't just assume your fence means privacy. Print that deed. Highlight it. Laminate it if you must. Because one day, someone might try to declare your flamingo floaty as community property. Tip number 2, document everything security cameras. Install them. Backyard sprinkler logs. Keep them. That time she threw a garden gnome over your fence? Yes, even that deserves a folder titled Karen Evidence, Exhibit A to Infinity. Tip number 3, HOA bylaws are your shield. Trust me, the only thing more powerful than a clipboard-wielding Karen is a well-cited Section 14B. Memorize the part about private pools, because one day, someone might argue visibility equals ownership, and that's your cue to say, see this clause? Now, see yourself out. Tip number 4, never underestimate the power of humor. When logic fails, when reason breaks down, when the flyer says emergency swim day at your drained pool, you fight back with sprinklers, spotlight theatrics, and custom murals, because nothing defeats entitlement like poetic humiliation. Tip number 5, your peace is worth protecting, your backyard is your sanctuary. Not a HOA theme park, not a shared aesthetic. It's where your floaty lives, your dog runs free, and your lemonade tastes like victory. And if someone tries to take that away, just smile and twist the valve, because at the end of the day, respect isn't given with a clipboard. It's earned with patience, a camera, and the glorious hiss of a sprinkler set to maximum petty. And remember, if you ever find yourself wondering whether you're the Karen, you probably are. Long live private pools, long live personal boundaries, and may every HOA Karen know exactly when to stay on her side of the fence.